Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talk with Hana. I'm so happy you're here with us today. Whether you're listening on your morning commute, during a break, or relaxing at home, we're really glad you joined us.
Hey there, great to have you with us. I was thinking about this topic all week and I just couldn't stop. Today's conversation is honestly one of my favorites so far.
Same. And honestly, this topic surprised me. I always thought Shakespeare was kind of old and difficult, like something you had to study in school and then forget about.
Exactly. But today, we're going to show you how Shakespeare, yes, a writer from over 400 years ago, somehow understood people better than most writers alive today.
That's right. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to talk about human behavior in English, use some really interesting vocabulary and phrases, and even impress your friends with a little Shakespeare knowledge.
And we want to hear from you. Do you think people have really changed over the last few hundred years? Are we different from people in Shakespeare's time? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one.
And if you're new here, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Talk with Hana so you never miss an episode. We post new conversations every week to help your English grow naturally.
All right, let's jump in. We're going to start by talking about who Shakespeare was and why his ideas about people still feel so real today.
So let's start with the basics. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, that means a writer of plays, who lived from 1564 to 1616. He wrote 37 plays and 154 poems, and his work is still performed all over the world today.
And what's amazing is that even though he lived so long ago, the characters in his plays feel completely modern. They're jealous, they're ambitious, they fall in love, they make terrible decisions, they lie to protect themselves.
Exactly. So today, we're going to look at some of the key human traits, that means qualities or characteristics, that Shakespeare wrote about, and how those same traits show up in our lives today.
Let's talk about a few big ones. First, jealousy. In his play Othello, Shakespeare wrote the line, and I love this, "Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on."
Okay, let's break that down. The phrase green-eyed monster means jealousy, and Shakespeare is saying jealousy is dangerous. It destroys the person who feels it. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Completely familiar. Think about it. Have you ever felt jealous of a friend's success or a coworker's promotion? Maybe you even know the feeling of thinking about it over and over until it makes you feel worse.
Shakespeare saw that hundreds of years ago. The structure here is simple. Jealousy leads to self-destruction. Subject plus behavior plus result. And we still say green-eyed monster in English today when we talk about jealousy.
Here's a practice for you. Can you use the phrase green-eyed monster in a sentence? Something like, I felt the green-eyed monster when I saw my colleague get promoted. Try writing your own version in the comments.
Now, let's talk about a second trait Shakespeare explored, ambition. In the play Macbeth, the main character wants power so badly that he makes terrible choices. He betrays friends, he lies, he becomes someone he never wanted to be.
And Shakespeare shows us that unchecked ambition, ambition with no limits or moral boundaries, is dangerous. He wrote, I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself. Basically, ambition can go too far and make you fall.
In modern English, we might say something like, he was so ambitious that he lost sight of what was really important. The lesson, ambition is good, but balance matters. Shakespeare knew that.
So we've got two big traits so far, jealousy and ambition. Both are very human, both are very real, and both are just as relevant today as they were in Shakespeare's time. Pretty amazing, right?
Now, let's move to another area where Shakespeare really nailed human nature, love and relationships. Because honestly, nobody wrote about love the way Shakespeare did.
Oh, this is my favorite part. So Shakespeare's famous play, Romeo and Juliet, is all about young love, passionate, intense, and also completely irrational. These two teenagers meet at a party and immediately decide they want to get married.
And we still see this today, right? We call it falling head over heels, meaning you fall so hard in love that you stop thinking clearly. It's one of the most relatable things about being human.
Shakespeare also showed us the formal versus informal side of love. In public or formal situations, characters in his plays speak very properly about their feelings, but when they're alone, it's raw, emotional, passionate.
That still happens today. Think about how people behave differently in formal situations, like at work, versus when they're with close friends or a partner. We kind of perform a version of ourselves depending on who's watching.
Shakespeare had a word for this. He explored the idea of the persona, the face we show to the world versus who we really are inside. That's still something psychologists and writers talk about today.
Now, here's a quick practice activity. Think about these two sentences and which one sounds more natural for a real conversation. I have deep romantic feelings for you versus I'm crazy about you. Which one would you actually say to someone you like?
Most people would say, I'm crazy about you. It's informal, natural, and emotional. Shakespeare understood that real feelings often break formal language. He showed characters switching between formal speech and emotional outbursts all the time.
Now, let's talk about deception, lying or hiding the truth. Shakespeare's villain characters are brilliant at this. In Othello, a character called Iago pretends to be a loyal friend while secretly working to destroy Othello's life.
And here are 3 things Shakespeare teaches us about deception. First, people who deceive others often believe they have good reasons. Second, deception usually involves showing a false face to the world. Third, deception ultimately destroys trust, and trust is very hard to rebuild.
Write in the comments, have you ever trusted someone who wasn't completely honest with you? How did it feel? You don't have to share details, just the emotion. This helps your English writing practice too.
To review, in this section we talked about love, persona, and deception, 3 huge parts of human relationships that Shakespeare understood deeply, and every single one of them applies to modern life just as much.
Okay, third big area, and this one is really thought-provoking. Shakespeare wrote a lot about power, who has it, who wants it, and what people do to keep it.
In his play, King Lear, an old king decides to give up his power to his daughters, and the moment he gives it away, everything falls apart. His daughters stop respecting him, his friends disappear, and he ends up completely alone.
Shakespeare was saying, power changes relationships. When you have it, people treat you differently. When you lose it, you see who your real friends are. And that's 100% true today.
Here's a real-life example. Think about a manager at work who retires or gets laid off. Suddenly, the phone stops ringing. People who were very friendly before seem to disappear. It's not new. Shakespeare wrote about this exact feeling.
Now, let's talk about fear. In many of his plays, characters do terrible things because of fear. Fear of losing power, fear of being replaced, fear of being unloved. Sound familiar?
Very familiar. Shakespeare's Hamlet is all about a prince who is afraid to act. He knows what he should do, but spends the whole play overthinking it. We still use the phrase, to be or not to be, which basically means, should I do this or not?
You can actually use this idea in everyday conversation. For example, to apply or not to apply, that is the question, before sending a job application. It's funny, and it's actually using Shakespeare in modern life.
And here's where it gets really deep. Shakespeare also wrote about self-knowledge, knowing who you really are. In many plays, characters suffer not because of what happens to them, but because they don't know themselves.
Let's do a mini practice. I'll give you a situation and you respond out loud. Ready? Imagine you've just made a mistake at work. Using Shakespeare's ideas about self-knowledge, what would you say to yourself?
Something like, I need to be honest with myself about what went wrong, or I'm going to learn from this instead of hiding from it. That's self-knowledge in action, and Shakespeare was all about that. So in this section, power changes relationships, fear drives bad decisions, and self-knowledge is the key to real growth. These are timeless ideas, and now you know how to talk about them in English.
All right, this is one of my favorite sections, common mistakes. And I'll be honest, I've made most of these myself when I was learning more about expressing these kinds of ideas in English.
Same. So let's look at 4 common mistakes people make when talking about human nature, behavior, and feelings in English.
Mistake number 1, saying he is very ambition instead of he is very ambitious. Ambition is a noun. The adjective, the describing word, is ambitious. So the correct form is she is incredibly ambitious, not she is very ambition.
This is super common. A good trick, if you want to describe a person, you almost always need the adjective form. Jealous, ambitious, prideful, fearful, these end differently from the noun forms jealousy, ambition, pride, fear.
Mistake number 2, using jealous and envy as if they're exactly the same. They're very close, but there's a small difference. Jealousy usually involves a fear of losing something you have. Envy is wanting something someone else has.
So I'm jealous of my partner talking to that person, fear of losing them. I envy my friend's confidence. I want that quality for myself. Shakespeare actually used both, and knowing the difference makes your English much more precise.
Mistake number 3, saying Shakespeare predicted the future as if he could see what would happen. A more accurate and sophisticated way to say it is, Shakespeare had deep insight into human nature. He didn't predict events, he understood people.
Yes, this matters in conversation. Insight is a great word. It means a deep understanding of something. Try using it. That's a real insight into how people think. Much better than Shakespeare was a psychic.
And mistake number 4, being afraid to use big ideas in simple sentences. Students sometimes think you need complex grammar to talk about deep topics, but actually, simplicity is powerful. People haven't changed much is a perfect sentence.
Mistakes are how we learn. Don't be embarrassed. Every single fluent English speaker made these exact errors at some point. The important thing is to keep practicing and keep correcting. You're doing great just by being here.
Time for our interactive practice section. We're going to do a choose the correct sentence activity. I'll give you 2 options and you pick the one that sounds more natural. You can even pause the video and think about it.
Situation 1. You want to say that your friend works very hard to succeed. Option A, my friend is very ambitious. Option B, my friend is very ambitious, which is correct.
Option B, ambitious, is correct. Remember, when describing a person's personality, use the adjective form. Ambitious, jealous, proud, these are adjective forms.
Situation 2. You want to describe someone who hides their true feelings. Option A, she always shows a false persona in public. Option B, she always shows a false person in public. Which sounds more natural?
Option A, persona is the word. It means the face or identity we show to others. Person just means a human being. Big difference. And now you're using a word Shakespeare himself explored.
Situation 3. You want to say you understand something deeply. Option A, I have a good insight into that problem. Option B, I have a good view into that problem. Which one?
Insight is the right word here. I have a good insight into that problem. We use insight into something. It pairs naturally with topics like human behavior, business, relationships.
Now here's your challenge. Create your own sentence using one of these words: ambitious, jealous, insight, or persona, and drop it in the comments. We genuinely love reading what you come up with. It doesn't have to be perfect, just try.
And remember, real conversation doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be genuine. Shakespeare's characters weren't perfect either, and that's exactly why we still love them.
Focus on expressing your ideas clearly and naturally, not on getting every grammar rule perfect. Communication is the goal, and you're already doing it.
Okay, we've reached the end of today's episode, and honestly, I feel like my brain grew a little today. We covered so much, and I love how Shakespeare gives us a framework for understanding the people around us and ourselves.
Let's quickly review the 3 main areas we covered. First, we looked at jealousy and ambition, 2 emotions Shakespeare understood deeply and that still drive human behavior today.
Second, we explored love, deception, and the idea of persona, showing different faces in different situations.
And third, we talked about power, fear, and self-knowledge, the forces that shape the big decisions people make. All of these are just as real in a modern office, home, or school as they were in a 16th century stage.
You've done amazing work today. Seriously, the fact that you're here, listening, thinking about these ideas in English, that takes courage and curiosity. Keep that up.
Here's a reflective question to think about or write in the comments. Which of Shakespeare's insights do you think is most relevant to your life right now? Jealousy, ambition, love, deception, power, fear, or self-knowledge? Tell us.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like this video, share it with a friend who's learning English, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to Talk with Hana so you catch every new episode. Your support means everything to us.
Learning English is a journey, and we're so glad to be on it with you. Every episode, every comment, every sentence you try, it all adds up. You're making real progress, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Thanks so much for spending this time with us today. See you next time.